come. They just make themselves comfortable. My name is Gayle Jordan, and I'm the Executive Director of Recovering from Religion. As I mentioned to you in my email, I promised to only keep you for an hour. The first thing I'd like to do is for you to meet the Board of Directors. As donors, some of you may already know, some or all of us. I'll ask them to wave if I say their hand. The first one you know and love, the founder and president of the board, Dr. Darrel R. Our board treasurer, Shanon N. Our board secretary, Shanna Rubio. I didn't see Shanna come in. She might be in the room. Director, Phil Session. Board member and STP IT Director, David Klinge. Board member and parliamentarian, Gwen Blodgett. Gwen may not be in the room. I didn't see her come in yet. And our newest board member and leader of RFR Australia, Sherrie D'Souza. Finally, I'd like to recognize members of our volunteer family in attendance today. As they wave, understand that our reverence for our volunteers is as close to the sacred as we get here at RFR. Not to use too much religious imagery, but our volunteers truly are the heart and soul of the work that we do here. Thank you all again for coming. We have invited you here today because we want to share with you what we are doing with your money. I'd like to share rapid fire style a few of the highlights of the work that Recovering from Religion does. We have had growth every year for the last 5 years. Growth in the number of volunteers, the number of donors and donations, and growth in the number of clients that we've been able to help. We have 16 active divisions of RFR, including our 24-hour chat line, our telephone hotline, our blog, our YouTube channel, our online community, our secular therapy project, our resource collection, and many others. In addition, we have 3 projects in development, including RFR Australia, which you'll hear more about in just a few minutes. We have 55 support groups in 6 countries with over 6,100 members. They've moved their meetings online and have continued to provide distanced support throughout the pandemic. We have welcomed 476 volunteers into our training program from 18 time zones. We have consistently maintained the Platinum Award, the highest possible from the charity rating site GuideStar, based on accountability and transparency. These are exciting facts to share. Metrics are how we can ensure that we're making progress, but they don't tell the whole story. They don't reflect the most important part of what we do here. So I want you to do something with me. I want you to picture an imaginary client. We're going to call her Bethany. I want you to picture her beginning to experience doubts about the beliefs that she has held her entire life. Her social circle and that of her children is built around her church. She dare not speak up to her spouse, her sibling, her parents, or her friends because they have made it clear their feelings about religious apostates. Her doubts are beginning to affect her sleep, her contentment, and her mental health. One night when she can't sleep, she finds RFR after a little Google search. She reaches the main page and, weeping, clicks on a few of the links in our resources. When she feels like she's ready, she returns to the home page, clicks on the green chat bubble, and types in, "Is anyone there?" I also want you to imagine with me who is on the other end of that chat message. Most of our trained volunteers come from religious experiences. Most have done the arduous work of dissecting and discarding bad beliefs. They've gone through our extensive volunteer process, including an application, an interview, training, mentoring, and are now ready to reach back and help someone else. And so, over his breakfast coffee, thousands of miles away, one of our volunteers hears the notification and types back into the chat, "I'm here. How can I help?" Bethany's journey begins. She chats with the agent, telling her story, sharing her fears. Our agent encourages her to talk about what she thinks her options are. He shares a few more resources with her and suggests she join our online community, where she goes on to join the Christian channel, the family channel, and the reconstruction channel. She finds a local support group in her area and slowly begins the process of working through her doubts. She has long conversations with other folks who are struggling with similar ideas, morality and identity, and finding the words to talk to her family. My point in sharing this with you is to show you that the work we do here at RFR is so much more than just one chat or one phone call. From years of working with clients, we have developed the programs we have all in an effort to answer the question, how can we help? And our volunteers reliably share with us that this is the most gratifying volunteer work they've ever done. So thank you. Thank you for your consistent, generous support of RFR. Your donations empower us to do the important work we're doing. You help pay for the cost of meetups so folks can find a local group in their area. You help pay for the phone platform and the chat platform. You help provide the marketing so that people like Bethany can find us. And you help us keep our agents trained at the highest level so they can provide the peer support our clients so dearly need. I hope that you'll enjoy our presentation, but more than that, I hope you'll leave with an understanding of how seriously we take your financial commitment and how deeply grateful we are for your support. Thank you again for coming. Now I'm going to pass the microphone over to Phil.
Thank you so much, Gayle. I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and start sharing the screen here. It should work fairly well. So let's do that. Okay. So very well. Yes, as Gail mentioned, I am one of the IT directors along with David Klingy, who's on here. And so we just wanted to quickly, there's so much to go over. So let's quickly go ahead and jump into it here. And so what we'll be covering today is taking a look at the RFR code repository that we have on hand. Also taking kind of a behind the scenes look at some of our projects here. So the secular therapy project will be taking a backside look at that. Also, the main, bread and butter of RFR, our helpline for the call and chat interfaces, as well as the online community. And we'll also be taking a look at a few statistics from the website traffic, kind of looking at where people are finding us, where they're coming from, and all that good information. And so with that, I would like to go ahead and turn it over to the other RFR IT director, David Klingy, for this next slide here.
Hello, everyone. There's so much that we want to cover and so little time to cover it in, but we want to really hit on the important parts. And this is something that we recently set up. It is a repository for all of our source code that our volunteers program. And it is set up in such a way that if somebody just ghosts or disappears on us or can't, come back for any reason, we can immediately pivot and get somebody else into that role without, somebody having to switch over the keys to the castle. Next slide, please. This is just one of the many things in the back end of the Secular Therapy Project where we use to monitor our active clients and our active therapists. And as you can see, Darrel loves this slide, that it's just a steady growth, and it has been for as long as I've been involved. And you can also see that the heat maps with the different states and the different countries that we have therapists in. Next slide, please. And we also have an extensive backend for management. I just happened to use Darrel, so I wasn't sharing anybody's personal information. And I made this slide a few days ago. But you can see he was last in on February 5th when this was taken. You can see he created his account in 2012, and he added some information in March 21. We have this dashboard that we can see all this information about all of our therapists and all of our clients, and we can impersonate them if we need to look to view the site as them, or we can delete them and it immediately removes them from our system. We've had to do that on a couple of rare occasions of some unfortunate incidences, but it's come in very handy. Thank you, Phil.
All right. Thank you so much, David. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the interfaces of what I was mentioning earlier. And so this is kind of taking a look at the call interface from our helpline. And so, it doesn't matter where someone is calling in from. They could be calling the Australia line, the South African line, the UK line. All of it funnels through this simplified interface that you're looking for here, which is really good. Our agents go through so much training. There's mentoring and all of these other processes that go into their training before they start interacting with clients. And so the last thing we want is for the technology that they're going to be using to facilitate that primary interaction to have a high learning curve. And so this is a very simplified interface for them to use. And it's very versatile. And in fact, it's a Slack workspace and it is integrated with our phone provider Yodel. And so that's what provides this interface that you're looking at here. And you can see on your screen that, someone was calling into the US Canada line and it gives us their information, that things of that sort. And users can accept the calls from whatever platform they're actually comfortable with using, whether they want to use their phones, their tablets, if they want to use a PC. It gives a lot of flexibility in that regard because, we want our agents to be comfortable and use whatever they have at their disposal at that time to take calls as they see fit. Similarly, with our chat interface, when chats come in, they come into this interface here where it gives us some information from their name and their email. And so in this particular case, there was someone that had written in, and I'll just read the first part here where it says, "What can you teach me to help me understand my life as something worth living?" That was the chat that came in. So it gives us a little information. It lets us know where they came from, which in this case was the seculartherapy.org website, which we love to see on that side to see where folks are coming from on the side, which really helps us. And so at this point, like this interface that you're seeing here is open and accessible to any of the trained agents that we have that have the ability to take calls. And so if there's a situation that arises that an agent has not dealt with before, maybe it's something that they are not sure of the appropriate question to ask to progress the conversation, they can reach out. If you see on your left hand side of the screen, our hero support channel. So that's what we call our agents. They are heroes. They are the ones that make make this work and really, bring it to the forefront. So they can reach out there and reach out for assistance. And so anyone in there can come over to the chat interface and look and see the exact context of what they were asking, how the situation has progressed, and give advice and feedback to that agent. And so no one's out just, swinging at the fences alone. We're a collaborative effort. There's a lot of interactivity. And so it's a very interconnected environment, which is what we love. And so it's an amazing interactive experience there. And people can rely on the experiences, the wealth of knowledge that's been accumulated from agents that have been around for years and taken all kinds of situations and seen so much. And so, and even Darrel pops in there and gives advice about different situations as well. So, at the end of the call, there may be a situation where the agent feels that the caller or chatter is a good candidate for what. Oh, sorry. Before we go to that, this is just to give you a look of the total engagement of the helpline calls and chats. This is just for the last 2 years, from 2019 to 2020. And so the total engagement for the 2020 year was 2,872 unique calls. So this is made up of chats, calls, and chats where no agent was immediately available. And so typically a message will go out to that individual, say, sorry, we missed you, something like that, to facilitate the start of a conversation. And hopefully they'll be able to rejoin that way. And so this signifies an over 90% increase over 2019. You can kind of see it on the graph, the movement over time here, and it's been a lot of growth. It's been that way for years, and so we're very happy to see that growth as we're going on, and having to increase volunteers to take up all of these calls and chats and really increase that presence there. It's something wonderful to see, and we're very, very proud that more people are utilizing our services in that way. And as I was mentioning before, the online community, it's a community workspace that we control that gives a little bit of flexibility and support to folks that are calling in. And so at the end of calls and chats, if the agent feels they're a good candidate to be added to this community, for example, if someone was a caller and they were African American, they were still struggling with coming out, and they're part of the LGBT community, they could be added to these specific channels. So this is the Black Nonbelievers channel that you're seeing on your screen. We can also add them to the coming out channel, to the LGBTQ plus channel, so that they can interact with people that have similar experiences to what they have. And so, whatever, it's no limit of how many channels someone can be added to, as long as it's something relevant for them and something that our agents believe would be helpful for their process as they're struggling and weighing all the different things that they're wrestling with when they approach us in the first place. And so, just to give you an idea of just how busy this particular workspace is, as of the time that I created this particular slide, of uh, the 23 different channels that are available here, the 23 different categories, which we can add at will should we need to. There have been over 142,000 messages that have been sent within this workspace, which is just a huge amount. And actually, I just looked it up prior to coming here. That number is actually out of date. It's just under now 144,000, which is, and this, I made this just a week ago. So it's a lot of activity that's going on in so many different channels, and there's a lot of activity there of people getting support, mostly made up of clients interacting with one another and the channel leaders that are helping to facilitate conversations within the channel, and getting conversations going that may help everyone that's within that channel kind of grow and learn a little bit going forward. And so we're very happy about that. And so, without any further ado, we're going to switch over to the web traffic analysis, kind of look at a little bit of what's going on for the main Recovering from Religion website. And this is what you see here on your screen. And so, this is really the jump off point for so many people when they come to our website. There's all the numbers right there in your face with their respective country flags, of course, sitting there. And as Gayle mentioned in her introduction for the person calling in, Bethany, I believe, what's her name? The chat line is right there at the bottom left-hand side. It's present on all of our pages. And so whether someone's browsing around, as soon as they're ready, they can jump right into a chat from whatever screen they're going to. And so as we're looking at this, we like to see exactly, how much traffic we're getting, to see, what we're doing right and wrong, really taking a look at those numbers. And so when we look at the web traffic by year, we can see for the 2020 year, there were 98,801 unique visitors that came to the RFR website, which represents a just over 44% increase over the 2019 year. And so you can see from, just the last 4 years here, from 2017 through 2020, there's been a lot of growth as things have gone. And, 2020 was just this huge year. And so we're excited to see what 2021 yields, because I think it's going to be pretty phenomenal. When you look at raw page views, so people that are coming back to the page, whether maybe they're browsing around different resources, or maybe they're looking at, trying to get to the RFRX series or get to the blog through our main website. In raw page views, we had 201,000 visits for the 2020 year, which is just under 22% increase over 2019, which was 165,000 on that side. And so looking at where traffic is coming from, our highest slice is actually direct traffic. And so these are people that type in recoveringfromreligion.org and come directly to our website, which is what we love, which lets us know that our name is really penetrating people's minds and getting, stuck there. So they're not necessarily reliant on other search engines or social media sites in order to get to find us. Not that we do not love our other traffic origination sources. Google is a strong second at 35%, along with Facebook, our seculartherapy.org, and the other category, which comprises a lot of our social media posts that may be on Twitter or Instagram. Those will be funneled into that other category up there at 13%. And so looking at where people are coming up from by country, we've invested a lot into international outreach very recently with targeted social media posts, different ways. And so, as you can see, the United States makes up the bulk majority, 74% for 2020 of our traffic. However, what we were trying to increase were those other countries. So you can see the United Kingdom now represented at 7% of our overall traffic, Canada at 6%, Australia at 5%, and South Africa at 2%. Those are all countries that we have the dedicated numbers for in those particular regions. And so that's we're happy to see that increase. And to look at it in a different way, kind of a year over year scale, you can see the movement. This is from 2018 through 2020, with the blue being the 2020 to the left of each of the categories. And so you can see that United States is still growing, but the largest thing was to look at the growth in the other countries to see if what we were doing was making an impact and really growing those segments. And so for the US, we saw a growth of 10% of that overall traffic. These are unique viewers, by the way. For the UK, was a just under 122% increase from 2019 to 2020, which is very exciting on that side. For Canada, it was just under 40% increase. For Australia, was 151% increase of web traffic from 2019 to 2020, which is very exciting. Especially, you'll see a little later in the presentation. There's so much going on over there. So just get ready for that. And for South Africa was very exciting at just under 230% increase from 19 to 20. And so that was just a very heartening thing, and lets us know that a lot of our social media ads and those targeting of those ads in those other countries was having an effect as people were getting more familiar with Recovering from Religion and the services that we provide in the first place. And so here's a few more numbers just to kind of round out the graph here. Germany at 85%, Netherlands at 110%, India just over 54, and France at a very even 100% increase from 19 to 20. And with that, I will actually turn it over to the person who's largely responsible for that increase in those other countries with the targeted social media campaigns, our treasurer and social media director, Shanon N.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. All right, so let me preface my presentation with letting you all know that I am volunteering from home, like most of us are. And so if you hear my children in the background, that's just part of the fun of this. You just never know what they're going to do. So bear with me, the adventure of caregiving for children. Let's see here. 1, 3, 2. Share my screen. Here we go. 8, 9, 10. And so I'm going to talk a little bit first about social media. And so, as you can see here, we have several different social media platforms, all a little bit different. And they're all very fun for me to track and manage. And as Gayle said earlier, and as Phil has said, in regards to our social media, it's how people get to know us. It's a lot of people's first experience with us, and allows people to kind of dip their toe into recovering from religion without doing the first scary step maybe of going to our website. And for a lot of us, that doesn't seem like it would be super scary. But for people, and I'm sure a lot of you can also sympathize, when you're first coming out of religion, when you're first doubting, even going to a website called Recovering from Religion can be very intimidating. And very scary. They may still think that God sees their thoughts. They may still feel like somebody might find out. So social media is a very soft and safe introduction. And so our metrics definitely show us that people are looking for us. We've had an 8% increase in Facebook likes for Recovering from Religion. We've had a 15% increase in Facebook likes for the Secular Therapy Project. Our Twitter followership for Recovering from Religion has increased by 11%. We have gained 397 followers on the Secular Therapy Project Twitter, which is only 1 year old, just a little over 1 year old. So the Secular Therapy Project Twitter account is still very new. And we are very proud of all of our gains because they are quality gains. They are not empty accounts. They're people that are real people. They're really looking for our content. They're actual leaders in their fields, like therapists. We have an Instagram account. We have a total number of followers of 1,619, and we've just broken 1,500 YouTube subscribers. And so I kind of want to showcase some of the content that is really grabbing onto people. And so we have a blog. And so a lot of times I will post little pull quotes from our blog with a graphic to kind of introduce people to the blog, introduce people to the article, and get them engaged. This quote says, "I realized how easily we can have our autonomy seized and how easily a person can be trained into circumstances which cause harm towards themselves and others. For me, the thing which seized me was my religion." I see, Bubba. Can you go play over there while I'm presenting? Bubba, it's okay. Mommy will fix it. And so that reached 23,000 people. 23,000 people saw that. And we had 841 interactions. And when I say interactions are shares, comments, likes, or any of the other kind of reactions you can do now on Facebook. We've had another one, and this one was very popular. This is a shared post from somebody else, and they said, "My aunt said they're closing down churches because they know the cure for COVID-19 is prayer. When I asked her why she couldn't pray from home, she said she was going to tell my mom that I'm being disrespectful." And that was much earlier in the year when the pandemic and the circumstances around it were still pretty new for us. And that reached over 95,000 people with over 6,000 interactions. On the Secular Therapy Project Facebook account, one of our therapists actually made this meme for me. Shh, Bubba, go over there, Bubba, for right now. Those of you who have kids, you know they have a radar. They have a radar for when you need them to be quiet, and they won't do it. So for this post, it's the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and maybe that dates me a little bit. But it says, "Me scrolling through available secular therapists in my area." And he's, obviously super happy to see that. And that reached over 26,000 people and had just a little over 1,200 interactions. And then for our tweet, we do have RFRX talks. If you are not familiar with our RFRX talks, I encourage you to check those out. They're free to watch. You can find them on our YouTube channel. You can find them on our website. We've been having them every week. And so this top tweet says, "Have you been taught that sex is only for procreation, that anything other than a monogamous heterosexual relationship will lead to damnation, that porn is addictive, or that masturbation is shameful?" And then it gives you a little graphic and a summation of what the talk is going to be about. And that one was accepting your sexuality after religion with Priya Westerband Otero and Dr. Darrel R. And that one had over 32,000 impressions on Twitter. This one was on our Instagram, and this is another quote from our blog, and it says, "I have come to a place in my life where I no longer need my security blanket, material or otherwise, and I plan to meet whatever fear lies ahead, coronavirus or otherwise, with total honesty and open-handedness." And then in the little image, you can see it's a cute little dog wrapped in a blanket, and that reached over 23,000 people. Here's another one from our Instagram, and this one was an ad. So I do run ads periodically if we have something special going on. I run ads for our RFRX talks because it's important for more people to see those because of how helpful they are. And this ad is for our new, at the time, UK helpline number. And that reached almost 10,000 people on Instagram. And so I'm very proud of the success we've had with our social media. It's important for us to interact across several platforms because different people use different platforms. Everybody has their preference. The demographics for those platforms look different. So it's important that we reach people who are older, people who are younger, people who are in various walks of life and have different preferences. And so I plan to build on those successes we've had with our social media. I'm really going to try very hard to see if I can land a few viral posts. That's always kind of a fun little game for me to see what I can get going out there. And a kind of a new soft announcement is that we're launching a TikTok. So we have a TikTok account. If you're not familiar with TikTok, it's an app that allows people to post videos that are 60 seconds long or less. It's very, very popular, especially with younger people, but the demographics are varied. Lots and lots of people use TikTok. So we are excited going forward to try and do that. And now we're going to go right into our financials, which are just as much fun for me as social media, believe it or not. All right, so I'm going to dive right into it and kind of take a look at this is our annual revenue comparison by year. And so I have showcased 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. In 2017, we brought in about $15,000. In 2018, we brought in about $22,000. In 2019, we brought in about $58,000. And in 2020, we brought in about $72,000. And that showcases a very steady increase. Sorry, everyone. I also have dogs, so hooray. And one of them likes to bark sometimes. And so we also have an expense comparison by year. And so this kind of reflects what our revenue looked like, because as a nonprofit, of course, we don't plan to make profit. We plan to take action with all of our revenue. And so, we do spend quite a lot of it on our programs. And so our expense comparison by year, in 2017, we spent about $9,000. In 2018, we spent about $13,000. In 2019, we spent about $36,000. And in 2020, we spent just under $30,000. And so we did spend more in 2019. The reason why we spent more in 2019 and did not spend quite as much in 2020 is because in 2019, we had our fall excursion. It was our very first one. It was an expensive program. It was very successful, but because of the pandemic, we were not able to have that again in 2020. So that is the reason why we have an increased revenue or increased expense in 2019 that you do not see in 2020. All right, and so this takes into account both revenue and expenses. in 2017, we had a profit, but money left over after we paid all of our bills, of about $3,000. In 2018, we had a profit of about $9,000. In 2019, we had a profit of about $22,000. And in 2020, we had a profit of $40,000, which we're very proud of. We're very excited about that. And so taking a look at what we spend our money on, we have administrative costs, which are about 17%. Administrative costs are things like supplies and software and that kind of thing. We have fees. Good grief. Sorry, everyone. We have fees and taxes at 7%. We have payroll at 13%. And then in another category, we have marketing at 19%, which is very, very important because people cannot take advantage of our programs if they don't know that we're here. And then at 9%, and this expense breakdown is for this year. For events and conferences, it's at 9%. We usually do spend more money on events and conferences, but we did not spend that much this year due to the pandemic. We spend 13% directly on program-only costs. And as you can see, our greatest expense, and something that is very important, is on volunteer training and retention at 22%. It is incredibly important that we nurture our volunteers, that we train them, and that we show them with our actions and our dollars how important they are to our mission. Our revenue breakdown this year. So first, I'm going to talk about the big chunk that you may see here, and that is grants. And so for grants, grants are large sums of money given typically all at once, usually by large corporations or trusts. And that composed about 60% of our income. And so one thing I do want to say about grants is that they are unpredictable and they're unreliable. We were very, very lucky this year. We were very lucky last year that we were able to receive this money, but this is not money that we can count on. We never know when we're going to get a grant. Often they kind of suddenly land in our lap. And so it's what we call our growth money. It's money that we have and we set aside so that we can build and grow, we can make new programs, and we can make planned improvements to our existing programs using that money. That is not the money that we use to cover our day-to-day expenses. So that said, we have our general donors, which are donors who send in a check, who send us a PayPal donation, and those give us about 20% of our revenue. And we also have our subscribed donors, which are donors who donate via PayPal. They're signed up. It's like a subscription. They give the same amount every month or every week. And they comprise a little bit more than 10%. And the general donors and the subscribed donors, these are the everyday donors, the donors who are probably just like you, just like me, because the entire board does donate. These are the donors who make it so that we can pay our bills, so that we can keep doing exactly what we're doing. We rely heavily on our subscribed and general donors to keep the machine moving for us. We also have corporate donation programs. Those are programs like Amazon Smile. They give a percentage of what they Like if you make a purchase, if you do it through Amazon Smile, they'll give a percentage of what you buy to us. There's PayPal giving. There are programs you can look up and see if your company might be doing this kind of thing on our donate website. It's called Double the Donation. If you go to the donate page on our website, you'll see it and you'll be able to search for your company, where they may match employee donations, or where they may do something where they allow employees to donate out of their paycheck. So those comprise a little less than 10% of our revenue, and then a very, very small portion but still important is like our merchandise, content on our blogs, interest. It doesn't bring in a lot, but it's important that we are generating that revenue, because it means that our name is getting out there. People are reading our blogs. People are buying things with our name on it. And if you wear a Recovering from Religion t-shirt, somebody else will see that t-shirt and be like, oh, what is that? They might get curious and look it up. So every little bit helps. So I also want to look at our revenue source comparison by location. If you remember what Phil was saying before about how our demographics have changed a little bit on the website, you see that reflected in our revenue sources. And so in 2019, and these are the numbers that you see next to the countries are transactions, and this is all on PayPal. So the United States had 605 transactions. Canada had 25. And again, this is 2019. Netherlands had 3. Denmark had 1. Australia had 4. And France had 1. That was in 2019. In 2020, the United States had 796. Australia had 20, which is in 2019, there were 4. In 2020, there were 20. Canada had 29. Ireland, which wasn't even on the list in 2019, had 9. The United Kingdom had 5. Belgium had 12. We also have the Czech Republic, Spain, India, and South Africa with one transaction each. And these are important not just because of revenue, but because more people from more places are seeing what we're doing and they want to support it. And that's really important. And so going forward, our financial goals for 2021, we want to nurture, of course, we want to nurture what we already have going on. We want to nurture our existing revenue sources. We want to take advantage of more corporate giving, because there are so many companies that match employee giving. And I think just a lot of our donors may not be aware of that. And so we want to try and spotlight that and make it easier for our donors to take advantage of programs out there to make the most of their donation. And we want to use the grant money that we received, our foundational assets, we want to use that as wisely as possible. And we want to look into maybe how to invest those assets so that we can continue to generate revenue for ourselves going forward. So thank you so much for your time and your attention. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sherrie.
Thank you, Shannon. So I'm going to quickly share my screen as well. Alrighty. So I'm coming to you from the future. It's Monday, the 22nd of February here. So good morning, everybody. I'm very excited to be able to present to you what's happening in Australia. And I've got a few slides that we will just take a little casual romp through. So to understand first off about what's happening in Australia, I want to share a little bit about me so you understand why we're doing all of this. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, and I was a very dedicated and devoted witness. I was a regular pioneer from the ages of 16 to 26, and a regular pioneer is one that is a full-time volunteer in the organisation and who commits 90 hours a month of going door to door. Tells you the type of witness that I was. My husband was similarly minded to me. We got married in 1999. He was also a pioneer, but he also went to the headquarters of the organisation here in Australia called Bethel, and he worked there for 5 years, only with a monthly stipend of about $110, which is not much to live on, I'm sure you can appreciate. So that's the two of us. Now, the waking up process was different for both of us. My husband started to wake up before I did. I took a little bit longer. We stopped attending meetings in 2015 when my husband was exposed as an apostate. We had a young witness working for our home business, and she fossicked around on the work computer and discovered that Sasha had forgotten to log out of a former Jehovah's Witness forum. So that exposed him, and she went and told the elders, and that's how I found out that my husband no longer believed. It took a while longer for me to realize that the religion was not true. And that really happened when I read the findings report, which you see there just on the slide, case study 29 of the Australian Royal Commission into Institutional Response to Child Sexual Abuse. They investigated the Jehovah's Witnesses. I was horrified to learn in that report that the organisation in the same building that Sasha had worked for 5 years had kept records of 1,006 alleged pedophiles affecting 1,800 victims, and not one of them had been reported to the police by the organisation. I was horrified from what I read, realised that it wasn't true. And so in 2017, my deconversion process started. Obviously, all of the religious trauma resulting from that, the shunning from family and from all of the network that we had. And I found I needed some therapy and support, but noticed that in Australia, there really wasn't any way that you could go to get that support. You really were sort of stumbling around a bit, and it was difficult to explain the situation to your doctor or just people in general to help them understand what you were going through. With that in mind, in June 2019, Sasha and I organised the largest gathering of former Jehovah's Witnesses in Sydney, and our whole focus was to have an afternoon of healing and support. And just to draw attention to this picture there of the award we're giving, or a present we're giving, the gentleman taking that award is now a federal justice here in Australia. His name is Angus Stewart, and he was the senior counsel in investigating the Jehovah's Witnesses in both case study 29 and 54. So it was just an incredible privilege to meet him. At the same time, in June 2019, we had a film crew come out from Los Angeles that are filming a documentary called The Truth About the Truth. And there's just a few shots of some of the interviews that happened at that time. So following this event that we did in June, I was then, what do we do from here? And I was very fortunate to hear about recovering from religion from a very good friend of mine, and who was also a board member of RFR, Shannon Rubio. And so I joined and became an RFR volunteer in early 2020 and started the first support group here in Australia. Unfortunately, obviously, because of the pandemic, we didn't get to have our first meeting face-to-face. So it was via Zoom on Saturday, the 18th of April. And as you can see from the little meetup screenshot, this screenshot was taken a few days ago. I think we've got 166 members now. So it's growing all the time, which is just fantastic. In September 2020, my husband also joined RFR as a volunteer, and he helps Eric Wells, the support group director, open up Zoom meetings, since there's now 58 or 59 now. I forget what Eric put in the chat. A lot of groups, and so that's a lot to open up all over the world and every month. From November 2020, the Sydney support group went to 2 meetings a month, one on the first Thursday evening and the other on the third Saturday morning of the month. We just had one this last Saturday, and we had the record attendance of 25, and we had 8 new people attend, which was just absolutely fantastic. I love the support groups. Now in 2021, we have brought together a group of RFR volunteers. We've got Daniel Klein, who's in Melbourne. He is the helpline agent extraordinaire. We've got Kathy Lynch, who's in Sydney, former Jehovah's Witness, and she's heading up our secular therapy project lead and coordinator here. Jonathan Durnford, who has joined as a support group leader. He's in Perth and is looking at starting up the first support group in Perth under RFR. Myself, and then we've got Naomi Mora, who is a co-host support group. She actually started as a co-host for that very first meeting on the 18th of April, and she's just done a tremendous job helping support myself and so many others. Sean Powery, who's recently joined us, he's a former Mormon, and he's helping and recruiting more volunteers, and then my husband Sasha as well. So the 7 of us, we meet together every fortnight, and we've put this chart together to work out exactly who's going to be doing what. We've identified that the first thing we want to do is recruit and get more volunteers here. We want to recruit support group leaders. We want to recruit helpline agents. We also want to work on the secular therapy project and both encourage psychologists to apply to the secular therapy project, as well as letting clients know that those services are available. There's obviously marketing that needs to be done here to promote what we're doing. And then we're also tag teaming with research. But there's a few projects happening down here at the moment. So that we can raise awareness and educate people over what we're doing and the issues that relate to all of this. So super excited about that. And my final slide are the goals that we have set for this year. So we would like to see a well-supported support group in all states of Australia. We want to increase the numbers of volunteers, and we've given ourselves some targets of increasing helpline agents from 1 to 5. We'd like to see our support group leaders go from 2 to 8, and we're already well on the way because we've got 4 now. And we also want to increase our RFR ambassadors from 1 to 7. We want to increase awareness of recovering from religion here in Australia, and we feel to do that, we want to approach organisations that share aligned values and missions. We want to increase the media profile. So we've got a press release that we've drafted, and we'll be about to launch that in the next week or so. And we want to attend conferences as these become available. Skepticon is a big conference here in Australia that usually happens in October. It is going to happen this year, although it will be online. So we'll be investigating how we can have a presence there. We want to develop and build networks for education, raising public awareness, and creating research opportunities. And again, we want to increase the secular therapy project, register with approved therapists nationwide, and increase awareness of religious trauma syndrome. So we've set ourselves quite a few targets, but we are very excited about what we're going to achieve here. And it would not be possible if not for our donors. So thank you so much to all of those that have donated, because without hearing about an organisation like Recovering from Religion, there's just so much of a need for it. So it wouldn't be possible without you. So thank you. The other person that it wouldn't be possible without is who I'm going to hand over to now, who is our president and founder, Dr. Darrel R.
Thank you, Sherrie. So fun to see us expanding and so aggressively in Australia. And Sherrie, we're looking at Sherrie and thinking she's creating the model for how we might expand in other countries. As you've already noted, we're pretty strong already in places like Canada and United Kingdom, and we're opening in South Africa. So there's places, and we also have pretty strong connections. We haven't done anything with them yet, but strong connections in places like Brazil and Argentina. And we actually have a group that meets regularly and has leadership in Mexico City. So we see real opportunities here. We're trying to expand on our Spanish-speaking group, and we actually have a Spanish channel in our community. So we think there are some just amazing opportunities, and we think we can start taking it. We would have liked to have done that this year, but this year we got refocused, as Gayle has already noted, into online stuff. And that was not a bad thing. It actually has created some new opportunities we would not have done otherwise. And you've probably seen our growth has not been slowed down at all. We've gone like crazy this year. I will say this, I don't think Shanon pointed this out. We've had a virtually 100% growth in all of our, most all of our services for almost 3 years now. But our donation levels have only gone up 46%. Now, we love the 46% growth, but our programs are definitely growing far faster than our donation base. And we've got to continue to grow our donation base for this simple reason. We cannot count on grants coming in, period. We have to budget our year based upon our donations. We can't be budgeting on, maybe we'll get a grant this year. And we have to make sure we've got grant money put in a place where we can invest it and make sure that we're getting some return on that money for the rainy day or, other things. Any organization has to manage their finances carefully and wisely. And we put a lot of time and thought and effort into it, making sure that we're spending any donor dollars as if they were our own, because they are our own. Every board member does, in fact, donate. It's not a requirement of a board member, but we're happy to report that's what's happening. So I want to thank all of you today for having donated or for supporting us. Even if you're not a donor, if you're a volunteer, you are certainly donating to us, because without volunteers, we couldn't produce this. There is no way we could get enough money to pay for the services we provide all the people that come into us. So it's just essential that we be a volunteer-driven organization. I would ask that you help us in other ways, and that would be reposting. Be sure and repost any of the things that Shanon puts up here, blog posts, anything related to us. If you'll repost it on your own social media, that tends to get out because it costs us money to advertise. And that's a part of the reason, what part of the stuff we use donor money for. But you can help actually increase our reach probably just through your own reposting, even more than donor dollars being used for Google or somewhere, Facebook or something like that. We haven't even talked about upcoming stuff. Next year, we'll probably report on it, but right now we've got a huge opportunity. We're calling it RFR 3.0, Recover from Religion 3.0, where we're really going to be upgrading our systems. We're right in the middle of the redesign there. And again, it's totally all volunteer. So many people are putting in hundreds and hundreds of hours to reprogram everything. And hopefully sometime in the next 6 months or so, we will be transitioning to a much more efficient system than what we have now that will allow our volunteers to have to go through fewer steps to help people. Technology can take over a lot of human stuff, but the one thing we'll always keep is real humans talking to real humans about the recovery process. I would want to say real quick thank you to some people that are here right now. I saw John. Is John still here? And John and Steve, they're not here any longer. Eric Wells is still here. These people are putting massive amounts of time in to make this all possible. Their leadership is just second to none. I mean, the leadership we've got in RFR isn't just the board. It's incredible leaders leading every department. I see Brian here. Brian was almost single-handedly responsible for getting all of our resources started, and he's handed it off to, I I can't use names sometimes because of anonymity, but hand it off to another great leader who's done a good job of maintaining, even expanding that. So last in my list is we're looking at next year. We're looking at or not next year, but the finish of this year. And we're still trying to figure out if we're going to do our excursion or not. It was such a phenomenal success in 2019. We really, really want to do it. I know Shanon really, really wants to do it. And we're thinking it's possible, but the board has not made its final decision. We may look at it as a good idea, may not. We don't know. But stay tuned here. We would love to see lots of you coming to the excursion. More importantly, what we found the excursion did was an amazing healing process. I think some of us, some of the volunteers that came were surprised at their own emotional response to this, that it was a healing experience that exceeded our own expectations. Well, that's the end of what I've got to say, Gayle. I just want to say one last thank you to everyone who volunteers here, everyone who donates to RFR. This could not be possible without you. And if you, in fact, have benefited from what RFR provides as a volunteer, if you've benefited by being a client, I hope you'll pay it forward in some way, either by reposting things or volunteering or donating, but help other people find us. Thanks. Back to you, Gayle.
Thank you, Darrel, and thank you, members of the board, for such wonderful reports. As we started to pull this meeting together, and we were trying to determine what would be effective and how can we get our message across? How can we thank you enough? How can we help you understand how we're putting your donor dollars to use? And the comments that we have made to one another is what a joy to be part of an organization with this kind of a problem. How are we going to communicate all this information? Because all of our reports are so strong. The organization is growing on every facet. So thank you for participating. Thank you for your donor dollars. Those of you who are with us, who are volunteers today, thank you for your time. If there are no other questions, I'm going to let you enjoy what is left of your Sunday afternoon. And for our Down Under friends, their Monday morning. Thank you all for attending. Thank you for your commitment to us. We promise back to you that we will continue to deliver and provide the help that we can, the best, finest help that we can possibly provide to the folks that are needing a little bit of hope, healing, and support as they struggle through what is sometimes a seismic change in their worlds. And we recognize that many of us come from that environment. So this is personal for us. This is not just volunteer work. This is because we have been there. We know the value of what we're providing, and we will promise to you as our donors that we'll continue to provide the very best possible support that we can. Thank you so much for coming. We will let you know when we have another one of these. Thank you for volunteering. Thank you for donating. Thank you.